The wartime president, Franklin D. Roosevelt, was the 32nd president of the United States and the only one elected to 4 terms. He led the country through the Great Depression and most of World War II, shaping the Allied strategy and rallying Americans with his steady leadership. The president who ended the war. Harry S. Truman became the 33rd President of the United States in 1945 after the death of Franklin D. Roosevelt. He inherited a world at war and made the fateful decision to use atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, bringing World War II to a close. The general who returned. Douglas MacArthur was one of America's most prominent military leaders, known for his service in both World Wars and the Korean War. He played a key role in the Pacific Theater and oversaw Japan's post-war reconstruction. The Supreme Commander of Victory, Dwight D. Eisenhower, rose to global fame as Supreme Commander of the Allied forces in Europe during World War II. He masterminded the D-Day invasion of Normandy, a turning point in defeating Nazi Germany. The bold general of the battlefield. George S. Patton was a legendary U.S. Army general known for his aggressive tactics and leadership during World War II. He played a major role in the North African Campaign, the liberation of Sicily, and the Battle of the Bulge. The architect of victory and peace. George C. Marshall served as U.S. Army Chief of Staff during World War II, overseeing the massive expansion of American forces and coordinating Allied strategy across multiple theaters of war. The soldier's general, Omar Bradley, was a senior U.S. Army commander during World War II, known for his calm leadership and care for his troops. He led American forces in North Africa, Sicily, and during the Normandy invasion. The father of the U.S. Air Force. Henry Hap Arnold was the only U.S. military officer to hold the rank of 5-star general in both the Army and the Air Force. During World War II, he oversaw the massive expansion of American air power across all theaters of war. The fighting admiral of the Pacific, William Halsey, was a bold and aggressive U.S. Navy admiral who played a key role in the Pacific Theater during World War II. He commanded forces in major battles, including Leyte Gulf and the Solomon Islands campaign. The admiral who turned the tide. Chester Nimitz was Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Pacific Fleet during World War II. He led American naval forces to victory against Japan in pivotal battles like Midway, the Coral Sea, and Okinawa. The tough general in the East. Joseph Stilwell was a U.S. Army general known for his leadership in the China-Burma-India theater during World War II. Nicknamed Vinegar Joe, He was respected for his grit, honesty, and deep understanding of Asian warfare. The Iron Admiral of World War II, Ernest J. King served as Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Navy and Chief of Naval Operations during World War II, one of only 2 men to ever hold both titles simultaneously. Known for his stern personality and tireless work ethic, King helped coordinate the global naval war effort. The daredevil airman, James Doolittle, was a pioneering aviator and U.S. Army general, best known for leading the bold Doolittle raid on Tokyo in 1942, America's first strike on the Japanese mainland after Pearl Harbor. The young Marine hero of Saipan, Harold Argahome, was a U.S. Marine who served in the Pacific during World War II. At just 19 years old, during the Battle of Saipan, he bravely rescued 45 wounded men under heavy fire before being killed in action. The selfless Marine of the Pacific. Richard B. Anderson was a U.S. Marine who served in the Pacific during World War II. While fighting on Roy Namur in the Marshall Islands, he dove onto a live grenade inside a shell crater, sacrificing himself to save the lives of his comrades in the heat of battle. The daring PT boat commander, John Bulkley, was a bold U.S. Navy officer, best known for his heroic exploits in the Pacific during World War II. He commanded a small PT boat unit and famously evacuated General Douglas MacArthur and his family from the Philippines under enemy fire. The Marine legend of Guadalcanal. John Basilone was a U.S. Marine Corps gunnery sergeant who became a national hero during World War II. At Guadalcanal, he held off a massive Japanese assault almost single-handedly, repairing jammed guns and keeping his position under relentless fire. America's ace of aces. Richard Bong was a U.S. Army Air Forces pilot and the top American fighter ace of World War II. Flying a P-38 Lightning in the Pacific Theater, he shot down 40 enemy aircraft, more than any other American pilot in history. The general who led the first offensive. Alexander Vandergrift was a U.S. Marine Corps general who led the first major Allied land offensive in the Pacific during World War II, the Battle for Guadalcanal. His leadership marked a turning point in the fight against Japanese forces. The young hero of the Ardennes. Francis Curry was a U.S. Army soldier who became a hero during the Battle of the Bulge in World War II. At just 19 years old, he held off German tanks and infantry to protect wounded comrades and save his unit. The humble hero of the Vosges. Charles Coolidge was a U.S. Army technical sergeant who distinguished himself during fierce fighting in the Vosges Mountains of France in World War II. For days, he led a small group of men in repelling repeated German attacks. The fighting Marine and future Commandant Louis H. Wilson Jr. was a U.S. Marine officer who earned the Medal of Honor for his heroism during the Battle of Guam in World War II. Despite being wounded, he led his men in fierce combat, repelling multiple enemy attacks. Hollywood royalty in uniform. Clark Gable was one of the most iconic film stars of the golden age of Hollywood, best known for his role in Gone with the Wind. After the death of his wife, Carol Lombard, in World War II, he enlisted in the U.S. Army Air Forces. The Angel of Bataan. Margaret Utinsky was an American nurse and resistance worker in the Philippines during World War II. After the fall of Bataan, she posed as a Spanish national to avoid imprisonment and began secretly helping American POWs with food, medicine, and supplies. The first female U.S. General, Anna May Hayes, was a U.S. Army nurse who served with distinction in World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. She rose through the ranks of the Army Nurse Corps and broke barriers for women in the military. A trailblazer in Army nursing, Della Rainey was the first African-American nurse commissioned in the U.S. Army during World War II. She broke racial and gender barriers, serving with dedication in the Army Nurse Corps and rising to the rank of Major. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. If we missed someone, let us know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss more videos about our history. See you soon.